Hello, and welcome to the C3Method Podcast with your host, Robert Plenick. Our goal is to educate you on everything health and fitness related with a clear, concise, and customized approach. We want you to know what you need to know and how to apply it in a way that fits you best. Today's podcast number 2319. The title is Eat What You Want and Lose Fat? Too good to be true? Well, not only is it true, it's actually necessary. And that's what I'm going to explain in today's podcast. It's important for us that when we set up any diet, whether it's a diet to lose fat, or if you're setting up a diet for sport performance, health improvement, to build muscle but minimize gaining body fat, whatever the intended outcome of the diet is, it's important that when we set up a diet, that we set it up for sustainability. Meaning not only can we do it, but can we do it for long enough to get the results, the outcome that we want. And often with most diets, we're dieting for an outcome that we'd like to sustain. If we want to lose weight, we want to keep that weight lost. If we want to build muscle, we'd like to keep the muscle. If we want to improve our sport performance, improve our health, for whatever goal the diet might be, likely once we achieve that goal, we'd like to keep that goal. So it's important that not only can we do the diet, so we can actually implement the actions and create the changes that we want. So not only can we do the diet, but we can do it for long enough to obtain the results and then at a quality enough to sustain the results. Often what it takes to get to a place diet-wise isn't exactly what's necessary then to sustain it, but you still need to sustain some of the behaviors. So for example, if you've just been eating completely random, sometimes good, sometimes not so good food, some days you have a lot of meals, some days you have no meals. If you tighten things up, you have a really good structure, you lose a lot of fat, you can't just go back to that. You can't go back to unpredictability and unscheduled and eating anything and everything. If you do, if that's what created the body fat in the first place that you then had a diet to lose, that body fat's just going to come back. So there is some component of the diet that we're going to need to sustain and maintain if we'd like to maintain the results. All of that allows us to have the understanding that what we create in a diet structure, we need to be able to do and we need to be able to sustain. This is why the ability to create a diet structure that allows you to eat what you want, which means it has open food choice, is extremely, extremely important. This is actually the way that I work with 99% of my clients. There are certain situations where we would not have open food choice. It depends on a lot of conditions. They might be having an eating disordered background. Maybe they're doing a specific competition or they have a medical condition. There's going to be some situations in where a closed food choice is important and necessary. But in the majority of cases, overwhelming majority of cases, open food choice is extremely important. This is because specific foods really don't matter when it comes to producing the outcomes that most people want. If people want to lose fat, it's not specific foods that are going to cause them to lose fat or allow them to lose fat. It's the structure of how they eat. It comes down to calories. We usually measure calories per 24 hours, but some people will track those across a week. It kind of depends on what you're starting with. If you're starting with complete chaos, just a light touch of control would help. As you make progress, you're going to need to tighten that control. But usually we're going to be tracking calories. It's calories in versus calories out. There's a lot of debate about, do calories matter? Is that really the be-all, end-all of fat loss? It does matter in the sense that we need to track what we eat in some way. Tracking food via calories is convenient because there are nutrition fact labels on all our foods. You can Google search or ChatGPT search nutrition facts, and then there's tons of apps that allow you to track calories and macronutrients. So whether you're tracking calories, whether you're tracking grams of protein, carbs, fats, whatever it might be, we have to track what we eat in some way. So that way we can create some consistency, and then based on that consistent effort, consistent action, we can modify that action to get a change in the outcome, meaning fat loss. So tracking calories does work. It works really well. For most people, it's going to be the best approach. That also allows, like we were saying, the goal of sustainability. When people come to me and they're like, just tell me what to eat. No, oh my gosh, that never works long term. It might get them started, so I might indulge them and do that to get them started. However, it's never the long-term outcome, so that's not really the direction I like to go in. Eventually, if we do start with that, we're going to open that up very quickly. If not, have that discussion right in the initial consultation and talk about how I'll give them specific options, but then they have a framework that they can make substitutions with. And that's really what I like is, hey, here are some good places to start, but this is why those meals are good. And if you want to put in other food, these are the parameters that you would make the substitutions with. This is important because our life is not entirely predictable. We have variable schedules. There's things that come up that impact our food availability. Whether I normally have breakfast at home, but now I'm traveling, whether I normally have lunch at home, but now I'm at work. There are many cases in which where we are, the food available to us isn't going to always be the same. So we need to be able to make known and controlled substitutions. So that way what really matters, if we're tracking, say, calories and protein, those are usually the first two things I have people track because they mean the most in regards to the outcome and how we'll feel throughout the process. So we track usually calories and protein. So any food has calories and a lot of foods have protein. Therefore, it doesn't really matter if we eat a specific food. If the food we were wanting has a meal between, say, 400 to 500 calories, if we look at no other components at the second, just go with this example, is if that meal is intended to have 400 to 500 calories, let's just get 400 to 500 calories from whatever's available to us. If we eat at home, maybe there are certain foods that we like to have. Let's just say that you normally have oatmeal and eggs. But now all of a sudden you're traveling, you don't have a chance to have oatmeal and eggs, and you have maybe a hotel breakfast. They have some scrambled eggs, but they look kind of gross. They have some cereals you can choose from, a couple like yogurts, and you're looking around going, oh, geez, this isn't my normal food, but can I get 400 to 500 calories out of these foods? You would figure that out, and then you're good to go. You don't have to say, oh man, these aren't the normal foods I have, let me eat nothing. Or, I'll just eat, this muffin here and I'll go on my way. So I have a coffee and a muffin. And it's like, well, that didn't hit your 400, 500 calorie mark, and that was going to be all carbs. So maybe that wasn't the best choice because in like 90 minutes, you're going to be starved. You're going to end up overeating then, rather than if we would have had the right amount of food at breakfast, and then we could have sustained our hunger all the way till the normally scheduled next meal. So when we change a meal, we're going to change how we feel the whole rest of the day, and that messes up all the other meals. By being able to make substitutions based on what's available to us, we can control what we're doing in each meal. That allows us to better control each meal of the day. So when we have variable food availability, whether that's scheduling changes, location changes, whatever it might be, having open food choice, a diet that allows us to eat anything as long as it fits our certain markers, that's important for sustainability for that reason. We also have the fact that most people aren't going to want to eat the same thing every day. You might say that, oh man, I eat the same thing every day. I won't mind. I promise you, from working with 3,000 clients plus over a 25-year career, when people say they eat the same thing every day, they're full of shit. They might do that for a few days of the week, and then in their mind that kind of gets muddled into, I do that every day. But when you look at their plans, they might have the same thing, say Monday through Friday for breakfast. Lunch, they have one or two variabilities. Dinner's a little more chaotic. Maybe the weekends are really different. It's usually not as consistent as they think they are. I have done diets where I've eaten the exact same food every single day in order to have a control factor, but those were really tight parameters. So for example, I've done diets where I lost 50 pounds in 10 weeks or less. So an average of 5-pound weight loss per week for 10 weeks. I did a diet once where I lost 50 pounds in 8 weeks. In order to do those diets to get extreme results, you have to do extreme efforts. And part of the extreme effort was saying, okay, I'm only going to eat this food or these few certain foods, and those are going to be the only choices I have. That then cuts down on decision fatigue. It cuts down on having to make decisions when you don't feel good and you're tired and you'd rather eat a million other things. If you give your body too much leeway, you'll start to struggle to make choices. So when we talk about eat what you want and lose weight, there are still parameters that we're going to follow. There's typically going to be calorie control. As I mentioned, we're probably going to focus on protein, making sure there's a protein minimum. And then we're going to educate the people we work with all the time, is we educate on what foods will make us feel best. We want to focus on our kind of how we feel during that, our experience. What I mean by that then is, if for breakfast for me, if I have oatmeal or oats, I don't really feel great from that. I get bloated. I don't have really good energy. So I've done diets in the past where I controlled my calories and my protein, and my energy source may have been oats for breakfast. But I didn't feel good. I felt bloated, low energy, wasn't really kind of aggressive and like going after the day. Whereas when I focus on, instead of oats as a carb source, one of the carb sources I like to use is jasmine rice. I don't get bloated from jasmine rice. I feel like I have pretty good energy from jasmine rice. That's a good choice for me. I usually like fruit as well. One of the meals I like to have right now currently is Greek yogurt. I'll put in a sugar-free type of vanilla syrup to make it just taste a little better and get rid of some of that sour flavor. And then I put in frozen blueberries. Freaking delicious. And that's not a ton of energy, but it makes me feel very full between meals. So if I'm struggling hunger-wise and I'm like, oh man, I feel like I could eat everything in the house right now, I'll choose a meal with Greek yogurt and frozen blueberries, and that fills me. Like, that's a slower digesting meal, but there's not a lot of carbohydrates. So I get good fat loss and I don't feel hunger. However, that would be a really crappy pre-workout meal. I'm not going to have good energy for that. So for pre-workout, if I'm eating roughly about 60 to 90 minutes before my workout, I'll then have chicken and jasmine rice. If I'm eating under 60 minutes, I usually go with cream of rice. And that's a faster processing carbohydrate. Therefore, I feel more energy faster from that. However, if I wasn't going to work out and I had the cream of rice, I would be hungry within like 90 minutes. And that's often too soon before when I'd normally have my next meal. So I have certain foods that I know digest quickly, certain foods that digest in like medium, and certain foods that digest slowly. However, whether I have any of those three meals, I'm still making progress. I can equate the calories across those meals, and then I can switch those meals throughout the day. So whether I work out in the morning, I might have cream of rice as my main carb source, have my workout. Then I have jasmine rice right after that, because I still have a long way to go in my day. And then maybe I'll have the Greek yogurt and blueberries in the evening, because I'm doing less now. I don't need as much carbohydrates. So that would be a good structure for early morning workouts. However, if I'm going to work out in the middle of the day, I might do my jasmine rice and chicken first. Then in the middle of the day, do my, I usually mix whey protein powder with the cream of rice. That's my protein source for that meal. I'll do that in the middle of the day, then have my workout, and then the yogurt and blueberries at night. If I'm going to work out in the evening, I might start the day with yogurt and blueberries, then have the chicken and rice in the middle of the day, and then right before the workout, I'll have my whey protein powder and cream of rice. So I can use those three meals and then substitute when I have them and where I have them as a way to format my day around variability. If the variability of that day is when I'm going to work out, I would know when to switch my meals around. So this is what we're looking at when we consider open food choice. Most people want their plan to be, for breakfast, I would always have the whey protein powder and cream of rice. For lunch, I'd always have chicken and rice. For dinner, I'd always have yogurt and blueberries. However, if they normally work out in the morning, but their kid or themselves has a doctor's appointment in the morning and now they can't work out till after work, if they had the cream of rice in the morning, they're going to notice they're really freaking hungry in like kind of mid-morning. They're starved by the time they get to lunch. They're going to eat lunch, but they're going to feel like they didn't have anything. Then by the time they get after work, they're going to be like, I have no energy whatsoever. All I can think about is food. I don't really feel like working out at all. And it's kind of a crappy day. Whereas if they were to just flip-flop those meals around, they're going to have a much better experience. They're still going to have the same amount of fat loss, but they're going to have their energy when they needed it most, which was in the evening after workouts. So you can see that when we change our schedule, and that's just one component of a schedule, is when we work out. That's one. There's millions of reasons why our schedule may change. That being allowed to modify our food choices helps a lot. Now let's say I'm out and about and maybe I help Meredith and like we go into like the city for the day. And we would say, oh, okay, here's a good example. So if we go out maybe on a weekend, we have a date day, I'll have in the middle of the day if we're out in Charlotte, maybe we'll substitute my normal chicken and rice, and I'll have a chicken sandwich with waffle fries from Chick-fil-A. I can equate the calories and protein, knowing how to do that, to where that is an option for me. And I can have the chicken sandwich, I can have some waffle fries. We're out and about, that worked great. I didn't have to cook chicken and rice at home, take it with me in Tupperware, and then eat it cold in the middle of the day, which I have done before, and it's totally fine, don't mind it. But if I don't have the time or don't feel like doing that, it's not that. You always have the time, just whether I took the time or not. How about that? Whether I took the time in the morning or not, whether I felt like doing it or not. Maybe we got to the city and we stayed longer than I planned. So I didn't think we were going to stay that long, so I didn't prepare the chicken and rice. I know that I have an option of the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich with the waffle fries. So that's an option that shows how open food choice allows me to stay on track, even if the scheduling and variance that I have changes around me. Another client example situation is if a client cooks for their family. They have a spouse, maybe they have some kids. They're likely, the spouse and the kids don't want to eat the same food every day. So if you're supposed to have chicken and rice, they're probably not going to want to have chicken and rice every single day. Rather than you cooking 2 meals where you're having to cook chicken and rice for you, then whatever the heck they want, it's nice to know how to cook family-style meals with separated items. We would actually separate out the protein from the carbs and fats. We can clump carbs and fats together as an energy source. We get energy from them. Protein kind of builds and repairs and does maintenance on our body. We would think of those as 2 different units or 2 different components of food. So if I'm thinking of tacos, tacos are great because they're usually compartmentalized by pieces anyhow. You have your tortilla wrap, you have the meat, you have like cheese, toppings. Maybe the toppings include sour cream and guacamole. Super high in carbs, super high in fats. So we might skip that for us. Maybe I'll have the tortilla wrap, I'll have the meat, and maybe fat-free cheese, a little bit of salsa, I'm good to go. But everybody else in my family can load it up however they want. So it's one meal, but you can piece it together for how each individual likes that meal. Spaghetti and meatballs. You would just have a smaller portion of spaghetti, you'd have different maybe portion of meat, and then you could have the sauce on the side, and that can be something that you add based on the amount that you want for the calorie allowance you have for sauce. Whereas the family, they might just load the plate up with noodles, load it up with meatballs, load it up with sauce. That would be an example to where if someone cooks for a spouse and a family, they're likely not going to want to eat the exact same food every day. So allowing open food choice allows us to blend our life with the life of those around us. It eases our stress. It makes things a lot easier, which then makes it easier to be consistent and to have sustainability over time. So those are a few client examples in kind of areas in which you would see that allowing open food choice is helpful. Another situation would be digestive issues. If you're a old school bodybuilder, bodybuilding coach, well, you're likely a client. Let's go with this. So if you're a client and you want to do a bodybuilding show, you might run into an old school bodybuilding coach who says you have to have eggs and oatmeal for breakfast. You have to have chicken and rice, as your other meals. I've had clients who do not digest rice well. Clients who are lactose intolerant, so they're not going to really do too good with those eggs. So allowing open food choice is extremely important because you might have digestive issues. Maybe you even have conditional issues such as stress. Sometimes stress will cause people to be constipated. For other people, it might cause diarrhea. For other people, it might cause overeating. For other people, it might cause undereating. Stress can change our sensation of hunger wildly, very variantly from person to person. So if you're a person who struggles with constipation, you might want to include more, say, fruits, because fruits have a lot of fluid for the volume of food. They usually have some fibrous component to it that helps you go to the bathroom. Whereas if you struggle with diarrhea, you might pick more dry foods. That might be a better choice for you in that stressful moment. If you're a person who struggles to eat when you feel stressed, well, then you're going to want to allow variants to maybe switch your whole foods to a shake or a drink. If you're a person who overeats, you're going to then want to focus on whole foods, but not nutriently dense foods. It would be better for you to eat a salad because it's not very nutriently dense than what you might normally eat. So we might switch their food over to a salad with chicken breast on it rather than chicken and rice. The salad gives them a higher volume of food. They can dump a bunch of vegetables on there. They can get a large volume of food, but it doesn't add up to as many calories as if you had that same volume of food in rice. So that is just a situational example where you can see how just the way somebody feels with stress, we might need to modify what and how we eat. And that allows us to be more consistent over time, and that allows for sustainability. The allowance of open food choice is actually necessary for long-term success with dieting. So the title is a little bit of a clickbait, eat what you want and lose weight, too good to be true. It's not only true, it's actually necessary. I wanted to share some of the examples and situations in which highlight how it can be necessary. And if you've struggled with diets in the past that didn't allow for open food choice, this could highlight why. Why you struggled, and then why a diet that actually has an open food choice structure might be a better choice for you. If you're nervous though, and you're like, oh my gosh, if I'm allowed to eat anything, I'm just going to eat everything. If that's a concern for you, when we normally set up diets like this, if a person has that fear, I would then start them with 2 options per meal and say, hey, meal 1, have this or that. Meal 2, this or that. Meal 3, this or that. Get them used to making a choice between this or that. Then, as they gain confidence and a sense of control, we give a 3rd option. Then we give a 4th option. And we slowly build it out from there. Eventually what we'll do is we'll make a list of, hey, here's the best carbohydrate and fat sources for us. Choose anything from this list. So it might have 12 or 15 foods. And that can feel like a lot, but we've started with 2, then went to 3, then went to 4. So when we get to 12 to 15, that might be for them in a sense of like, okay, I have a ton of freedom now, but I know if it's not on that list, I can't have it. So it gives them just that little bit of curb, that little bit of control that holds them back from eating everything. So again, if your fear is, if I'm allowed to eat anything, I'm going to eat everything. We do have an approach to control that. The concept of open food choice is, oh my gosh, it's freedom. It's freedom in the sense that if you've never dieted with that in mind or that structure concept before, and you've struggled at all, that would likely be the reason why. If we learn how to use open food choice, it gets rid of so many struggles, so many concerns, and that allows people to be successful long term. As I said, I've worked with over 3,000 people, 25-year career, every goal under the sun, and using a structure that controls first calories, then protein, and we start with the ability to make some substitutions within limits and controls. That is the best place to start with, rather than eat only these foods at only these times. That never works long term. If you want to see an example of this type of diet, you can actually find it. We have a new resource now. It's a 10-week diet structure. It's actually 10-week fat loss while eating what you want is the title. 10-week fat loss while eating what you want. You can get it. It's now available. It's a structure you can purchase, and then it's a guide that will teach you how to do it, and you can follow along with it on your own. It's $29. The goal is to make it something because it's a system that took me some time to create and write out in a PDF. But I wanted to make it cheaper than our one-on-one consultation service, which is $100. I wanted to give something that was like a bridge to where if you wanted to give this a try, but you wanted to try it on your own first, you wanted to try it for a lower cost, that resource would be available to you. So 10-week fat loss while eating what you want. You can get it on, there's our website through a company called KIT, K-I-T. It's just C3Method.kit.com. C3Method is spelled out, the 3 is spelled out. So C-T-H-R-E-E method.kit, kit.com. So C3Method.kit.com. You can go there and you'll see our products listed. You can also just shoot me an email, c3method@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram, send me a message there. You can find us on YouTube, send me a message there. So there's quite a few ways to get a hold of it. It's $29. It is a structure that you can use for 10 weeks. It'll get you to where you'll absolutely 100% make progress, and then you would just sustain that over time. Within that is an offer that if you purchase that for $29 and you give it a shot and you run into any issues, you get a $25 credit towards a one-on-one consultation. So if you buy this thing for $29 and then you also sign up for a one-on-one consultation for me to teach you how to actually apply it to your specific life and your situations, your food preferences, you're really only paying $4. I'm trying my best to stay in business, but make this stuff as affordable as possible. So really, if you get this PDF, you read about it, you learn about it, and you're like, dang, this sounds awesome. I would now like Rob's help on how to implement this into my life. In total, it's only going to cost you $4 for the PDF. This is freaking good. I think it's a good option. I know I created it, so hopefully I do like it. And I'm definitely going to be biased, but I think it's pretty good. Within that, we also have some discounts for some other resources that'll help you with adherence and consistency. So you can check that out as well. It's in there as well. But I hope that this was a valid case, an argument for food choice being not only helpful, but showcasing how it's actually important when we consider that whatever we would do a diet to obtain, we want to be able to maintain. Cool. Okay, so again, that little website URL is c3method.kit.com. You can email me, c3method@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram, find us on YouTube, send us a message there. If you need anything, please reach out. Please let me know. If you like our podcast, please share it. If you share it with anybody, I appreciate it. Hopefully they'll appreciate it as well. The more people that are aware of the podcast, the more people can be helped by the podcast. If you need anything, let me know. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening.